Good evening and welcome to the Angela Ray Show. I hope that you all have had a great day and you are ready for the countdown to the weekend. I know that I am counting down to December 21st. Why December 21st? Because that is the shortest day of the year. But what that means is that after December 21st, all the days start to get longer. And yes, I don't know why. We all know when daylight savings time comes to an end, the days get shorter. But for some reason, this year it's just been a little more challenging for me to deal with. And I don't know, maybe that is just because I'm having a bit of COVID fatigue. I don't know if you all feel the same way. It's that feeling of just wanting to get back to life pre March 2020. And yes, I'm definitely ready to get back. But, I know that in all things, I need to exercise wisdom. So, no matter how tired I am definitely exercising wisdom. For everyone who will be joining the broadcast live today, thank you all so much. As you log on, go ahead and slide in those comments and let me know what you are planning for the holidays. What are you planning for the holidays? Whether that is Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or the new year. Let me know what you are planning for the holidays. Well, you know how we get the party started every single week here at the Angela Ray Show. And shout out to everyone who will be catching tonight's broadcast on the replay. Let me know that you're watched it on the replay. Just put that hashtag replay in the comments so that I can show you some love. And so for tonight's Ray of Motivation moment, I just want to remind you that all change requires loss. All change requires loss. And that's a quote from Stephen Gross. So often when we are looking to change for the better, we are not always consciously aware that in order for something to change, you have to give up something. So if you want to become an entrepreneur, but you are working in a traditional 9 to 5, 7 to 3, or you have that overnight shift, eventually you have to give that up. If you are wanting to, let's say, become healthier, then you have to give up those habits that got you in the position that you are on now, whether that is fighting some disease in your body, whether that is dealing with extra weight, or whether that's dealing with not enough weight. So often I feel like, and especially in the United States, we look at someone's weight, and if they're overweight, we assume that they're unhealthy. But some people can be unhealthy but be underweight. So, whatever that change is, whatever you are trying to do, however you want to get better, just know that all, not some, not a little bit, but all change involves loss. And that is tonight's Ray of Motivation moment. All right. So Marks Clark says, hanging with the family. Okay. I see you. That is definitely a great plan for the holidays, especially after the year that we have had in 2020 and 2021. Well, I am really excited to welcome my guest for tonight. He is an actor, producer, acting coach, and an editor. You may have seen him in The Bobby Brown Story, The Haves and the Have Nots, and a number of television and film programs. Please help me welcome Mr. Ice Cold Moses, Joe Jones. Moses, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me, Angela. It's always good talking with you.
I'm so glad we had an opportunity to catch up. So, as I was just talking about, change and me feeling some kind of way with daylight savings time ending this year, I think that one of the things that I know I feel I'm personally dealing with is that COVID fatigue. So I'm just curious, what has kept you in balance and in harmony over the past 18 to 20 months?
Man, that is a really good question. And I don't even want to know if I want to say this is cliche because in the world we live in, it may not be no more. But honestly, God, man, staying in touch with my spirituality, trying to stay in alignment with Christ, like that in itself. When I tell you that Christ has shown Himself to me in so many ways over the past year and a half. that in itself is the foundation for maintaining my peace, for maintaining my stability in such an unstable career. Like it's God, without a doubt.
You better talk about the
Yeah.
unstable career. I don't know if people who are not in the entertainment industry have any clue about that instability and not knowing where that next project is coming from.
So
So
true.
I'm just curious, you mentioned the instability in the entertainment industry, but you're not just working in front of the camera. You do work behind the scenes as well. So tell me, what came first? Working in front of the camera or behind the camera?
Well, so my love for the entertainment industry in general, it started in front of the camera. It started in high school. I did a play. Quick backstory. We all got gifts. Christ has put a gift into each of us. Sometimes the most difficult thing is figuring out what that gift is, right? And some people find it out immediately, like, oh, this is my gift. And so for me, I think I realized early on that my gift would always be in the form of communicating with people. And so when I was real early on, like in middle school, for a while, I thought I wanted to be a pastor, and so I thought that was going to be my gift, and it could be maybe down the line, who knows? But in high school, I remember being introduced to the stage, and I did a play, and I'm like, oh, here's a method to motivate, to influence people, to persuade people in a different realm. I never would have thought about the stage. And at the school I was going to, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I was going to Tech High School. That school focused on telecommunications. One of their magnets was telecommunications. So I was already doing work with the camera. But then once I realized that, I was like, oh, this is cool. I did another play, and I'm like, okay, I think this is what I want to do. So I knew at that point I was going to pursue being in front of the camera, but I had an interest in working behind it as well. So I got my degree in film and television production as well, because I enjoy that side of it as well. But my love, my forefront love will always be acting and being in front of the camera, for sure.
So I have to ask. You said you did a play, but you didn't tell us. What was that play?
You know what's funny is, I omit that detail for a reason, Angela. No, no,
Uh-oh.
no. I'm just I'm just playing with you. So the very first play, it was Cinderella. And but what's interesting, I had a really, really small role. I played one of the horsemen, right? And then outside of that, I was like, if theater had background people, I was a background person, right?
It
Um,
does. It's called ensemble. It's called
there
the
we go.
ensemble. That is what theater background is. The
There it is.
ensemble.
I was my character name was one of the horsemen and ensemble. So there we go. That's right. Um, but what hit the spark for me in that play, I remember the director was like, hey, I want to do something different with the horsemen. When Cinderella comes out with her horsemen, her four horsemen, I don't want you guys just trotting around the stage. I want you to put together this little dance or some routine. And so this guy, he created this routine. And when I tell you, I had people coming up to us after the after the play, just like, "Yo, that little dance that y'all did as the Four Horsemen, my most favorite moment of the play." And to hear that so many times, and I'm just like, okay, okay, and that's what ignited the spark. I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here, and that's why I said I did another play. I don't remember the name of that one, but it was another play while I was in high school, and it was fun too. I realized I was having fun. Um, the way that, like, I think athletes get this adrenaline rush when they get ready to get on the field or the court or wherever their sport is. That's how I feel when I'm on stage, and I'm like, people are about to watch me perform, and this adrenaline rush comes. And so I always have a love for theater, even though most of my work is film and TV now. So yeah.
Now,
Cinderella.
I will say Cinderella. It is amazing listening to that story. It reminds me of the quote that there are no small parts,
Ah,
only small actors, because you had a part that, perhaps when
mhm.
we think about Cinderella, we think about this, the wicked stepmom, the
Yeah,
stepsisters, we think about Cinderella, the prince,
yeah.
the princess,
Mhm.
all of those characters. I don't tend to think about the horsemen. And
Right.
yet, you said people came up and told you that was
Mhm.
their favorite part of the show. So I think that quote definitely came to life for you at the beginning
Mhm.
of your career.
Absolutely, absolutely, and even I don't even think there's some life into the message that you just spoke, into just realizing like that any part you get, like, be thankful, put your all into it, for my entertainers and for my people that are trying to get into the, well, I think in any job, this isn't even just industry based, like any job you get into, whatever role you get, man, put your all into it, because you never know who's watching and you never know what can come from it. You just don't. That for sure sparked my love for acting, without a doubt.
Well, I think when I reached out to you for this interview, the first thing I wanted to say was Jam, Teddy Jam for me. You know, when I saw you in the Bobby Brown story, I didn't know you were going to be in it. I'm just watching it, just,
Mhm.
viewing. And when I saw you, I was like, oh my gosh, this casting was spot on. Like I could see it. Had you ever thought about that particular, playing Teddy in the past? Because, being chocolate and
Mhm.
African American woman, every other chocolate American woman in Hollywood I've been told I look like.
Uh-huh.
However, there are a couple where I'm like, oh,
Mm.
like I won't say the name just in case somebody's like, you don't
Yeah,
look like that. But I literally saw a picture online one day and I looked at it and I was like, when did I take this picture? I literally thought it was me. Like that's how much this actress looked like me in this particular picture. So I'm
huh.
just curious, is that a role that you had seen for yourself? Whether you had been listening to some Blackstreet, like, "Ooh, I can play Teddy Riley in the Blackstreet Story or the Guy
Yeah.
Story," or something like that. Have you thought about that before?
Nah, not really. Especially because if you remember in the movie, the way that Teddy wore his hair, the way that he wore his facial hair wasn't the way. I definitely wasn't rocking a box at the time, so that wasn't. I didn't see the resemblance there. And Teddy rocked the goatee with the thing in the middle. And
Mhm.
for the most part, no matter how long I tried to grow it, I could never get that. So I never had the thing in the middle. It was just the. So when I would see the picture of him, I would always look at an older picture. But I tell you what was a revelation. So my agent, I have a really strong relationship with my agents in the Southeast, Chris and Tay, Smith Young Talent. Like, I love these guys, right? I'm hoping we can ride it all the way to the top. I really do. But this doesn't always happen for my auditions. But when I got the audition for Teddy Riley, I remember one of my agents, he sent me a side by side like photo grid of my headshot and one of Teddy Riley at that time. And at that moment, I looked and said, "Oh, that does look similar." And and like I said, there's all kinds of things we audition for, but sometimes it's like, "Oh, you really fit that." But I just remember getting that from him, and he's just like, "Yo." And so it was, but no, I had never thought of I would play Teddy Riley like that. To be honest, I didn't know that much about Teddy Riley. I'm not a big music guy, so I knew he was a producer. I knew Blackstreet. Um, I didn't know the extent of his work until I booked the role. And I'm like, yo, this is an icon right here, man. So yeah, yeah.
All I want to do is Zone,
So,
zone. Yeah.
straight up, man. Oh man,
Teddy is he's just been there, done that, and
yeah.
he's one of those where you hear a song, especially what they call that new jack swing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
let me look, let me Google, let me see if this is Teddy because it
Yeah.
sounds like him. So yeah,
And real
definitely.
quick, what's funny? How many, and I don't know. Again, I'm not big into music, but how many white people are familiar with Teddy Riley, right? Like, I would talk with people, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, you know what Teddy Riley is known for, right?" And I'm like, "Well, no, you tell me, what is he known for? He known for that New Jack Swing." I'm like, "Oh, snap!" They got sold too. So, yeah, man. No, I was. It was fun playing him for sure.
One of the things that I have learned over the years in terms of the things that unite people, no
Mm.
matter age, race, or background, sports,
Mm-hmm.
music, and food. I
Yep.
have seen people that may not talk to each other 5 miles up the road, but you get right down to the football stadium and you have those fans out there tailgate. Everyone's best friends. Come get a piece of sausage off my grill.
Yep.
We got drinks. We have chips. It is tailgating has just absolutely mesmerize me in terms of the way people come together. And even inside the basketball arena, I'm a
Mhm.
big basketball fan, and just how people unite and come together and just
Right.
that passion. But music is definitely the same way. And some genres, not every single genre,
Right.
but
Right.
there are some genres that, yeah, people are singing the song and you're looking like, how you know that song? So
Straight
yes,
up. Straight
music
up.
definitely does that.
Yeah, for sure. For
So,
sure.
before we went live, one of the things that you were talking about is creating your own content, and I know that you have been producing. So, talk about that journey. I know you have the degree in film and television production, but talk about that. And what's up, Ken? I really appreciate you being here tonight. Definitely.
um so producing in general is, you're right, it's a completely different animal. One thing I will say though, I think it would be great if it would be awesome if people who are in the industry were able to, if you work behind the camera, you had an opportunity to work in front of the camera, so you realize what it is that actors go through. But for our actors, it would be great if they had an opportunity to work behind the camera, so they too realize what pressures come on the backside of the camera. And I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because there's a lot of moving parts, and uh, it's just so many moving parts. And there's a big struggle when you're working with a lot of money, but it's a big struggle when you're working with no money too, because you're hoping that people are loyal to you. Like when you're working with no little to no money, you have to hope that people love the project, because
Hmm.
if they get something that pays, what is to keep them, exactly, what is to keep
My,
them
my,
there?
my, the words of NSYNC.
Like, and so you have to be prepared for that. It's just a lot of work. It can be stressful. The shooting time, it can be stressful, but at the end of the day, I enjoy the process of filmmaking, because I enjoy the opportunity of get the opportunity to bring something to life, and possibly create a opinion about something, and see if you could persuade somebody's opinion on something, or just create controversy. There's so much you can do with film and television, and so I just enjoy that so much. But it's work. It's not easy by any means, by any means.
Definitely. I think about working, particularly, I would say, on stage. Now, I've directed plays, but I've also acted on stage. And for me, as a director, I am mentally drained. For
Mm,
me, as an actor, I am physically drained.
mm,
And so when I'm directing, I have to remind myself, okay, maybe they need a break because
mm,
I'm sitting. And so I'm not physically working and I don't feel that physical draining. But boy, in terms of the stress, it's like you said, the moving parts, and
mm.
thinking, okay, are they going to be able to get this? Do I need to recast this? I
Right.
don't like the way this set designer has put this together. I think we need to do something else. And so all of that is swirling around my head when I'm directing. I don't
Yeah.
think about that stuff when I'm acting. I just,
Right.
do I know my lines, and is this person I'm in the scene with, are we going to work this out,
Right.
that's usually all I'm thinking about. But the energies, I know, for me as an artist,
Yeah.
they're different. And so because I have been on stage, when I am directing, I can remind myself, ooh, I'm not tired, but they might be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that what you said is correct. When people have done both, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's on stage or on set, behind the camera, in front of the camera, when you've done both, you understand the mind, the physicality, and what it takes to bring to life both sides of the equation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you hit that spot on. Like spot on. Like without a doubt. There's a patience you get. Like if I'm on set, and sometimes I'll hear um uh like for instance, I was just doing a show. I recently I did a show, and I'm listening to one of or I did a project, okay, and I'm listening to one of the actors talk about something happening set wise, and this was a newer actor, right? I did know that this person was newer to working on film and TV, and but there's this breath of fresh air sometimes when you work with someone who's new, who doesn't know all the rules and all the technicalities, because they want so much realism to happen in the scene. And in this particular person, in this particular scene, this person couldn't understand why some of the props they wanted to use couldn't be. And I know I'm talking very vague. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
so let me go ahead and make that disclaimer for you. We sign most of the time something called non-disclosure
yeah.
agreements. And
Mhm.
so not only are we not dropping names of projects that we're in, unless, we've ended up on some celebrity's page who, posted a picture or something. We're
Right.
not trying to spoil plot lines, nothing. We're trying to keep the coins that we have and to get
Yeah.
coins in the
Yeah.
future. So that is, I will go ahead and say it for you.
I
That is
appreciate it.
why Moses is talking extremely, extremely vague, so
Yeah.
that he can give you the gist of the story, but
Right.
you won't be able to like, leave the show like, that's the show he was talking about.
Right.
No, let me go to IMDb. No, no, no. You're not
Right.
going to be able to tell. So go ahead and continue with your story.
And I appreciate that. And it's for that reason, or because I don't want to, I don't want to. If I'm talking about something that might be embarrassing to someone that's already come out, I don't want to embarrass this person. So that's why. Thank you for that disclaimer. But long story short, I mean, they just couldn't understand why they couldn't utilize the props. For instance, if I have this cup, and I want, if it's liquor supposed to be in this cup, they can't understand why maybe we can't put real liquor in here. We need to put water, or if it was filled up at one point and I need to leave it now halfway down because we're halfway down the scene, so it needs to look like we've drunk some of it, but you actually haven't. It's like, yo, it was filled up earlier. And so there's this realism that comes because they want the scene to be so real. But like I said, if you haven't worked on the other side to see how much work goes into continuity, and these people that have to make sure every time you take a bite of this cookie, that from now on, for the rest of that scene, if we move past that part, you have to have a cookie there with the bite in it every time for the rest of the scene. And so sometimes there's things like that, just small things that you have patience for, because you know that somebody is working on the other side to make sure that the show that you guys get as the viewer looks magnificent, and you're not like my wife who catches every continuity mistake. And so you just appreciate things a little bit more when you get the opportunity to work on both sides. And I bet if somebody had the opportunity to come from a career of technology, I know for a fact in sports it's probably the same. I'm sure that same sentiment follows itself in every other career. When you get opportunity to see both sides, from a C level down to the employee level, I think you just develop a better patience for both sides.
Definitely.
I don't
So
even remember what we were talking about at that point for me to go into that.
we were talking about working both in front of the camera and behind the
Oh, right.
camera, and having the appreciation for both.
Yeah, for
With you.
sure.
I'm with you. So we
I
got a
appreciate it.
question from one of our loyal viewers here, Mr. Edwin Evans, which is, there seems to be a resurgence in shows featuring different facets of the Black
Mm.
experience. If you got the green light and financing, what story would you like to tell?
Ooh, man. All right. That is a phenomenal question. And you are right. Like, just if I could touch on the first part of his question, and I hate saying it like that, but this is the era of Black. Like right now, if you are a content creator and you are Black, or you have content that is that is surrounding the Black experience or some way like that, where it feels like we see the Black experience, like this is, if you are sitting on your butt on an idea, get off of it, because I don't know how long this door is going to be open. But when I tell you it is wide open for the Black creator right now, now that doesn't mean you can go throw some trash and expect somebody to buy it. But I'm just saying, for those that are really trying to take a stab at this, like I've had people on a high level tell me like, yo, this is the time right now. And this isn't nothing that you could Google and probably see this. I mean, Facebook has dumped millions of dollars into
I gotta correct you. That's meta now. That's meta. It's meta.
oh, you know what? I appreciate it. Right, right. But it's just so much. So yes, it is big right now. When I think of the type of films that I love films that are based on true stories. So uh, uh, the type of stuff that I'm working on right now, like right now, I'm working on producing a project with a guy about a I'm working on producing a project with a guy, and he and his team were one of the first groups to like win a chess tournament as a young group of black kids, right? And I just think they have an awesome story that is nice to share, but can influence and motivate other younger kids to explore options outside of, especially black kids, explore options outside of basketball and football. Black young boys explore options outside of basketball and football. Like take a look, take a stab at chess, take a stab at golf, take a stab at something that's maybe not physically athletic, but technology or science, or just to try something different. And that's what we're hoping to do with this piece. So that's what I would working on right now. That's a story that I would love to tell, that I'm trying to tell. Yeah.
Okay. So we got a question from Ken Hinton, and Ken also has a show called Theater Talk. He is a
Oh, okay.
director and an actor as well. He says, "Talk about your role as Calvin in Acrimony, working on the film now as a director. What did you learn from working on that film?"
Um. So, well, one, um, no matter how people feel, because one thing I can't stand, I'm not big into what I consider like artist fashion. So I think there's a ability to have an opinion of the art, but I'm not big into artist fashion. So I say no matter how people feel about Tyler Perry and his work, one thing that Tyler Perry has shown us is that you can make an abundance of work and you can make it quickly. And so anybody that knows anything about Acrimony knows that for the most part we filmed that thing in 10 days. Um, and so you really have to give a shout out to Taraji P. Henson as the lead in that movie, because I think they did all of her days in four, maybe 4 to 5. And
Wow.
so, I mean, you know, as an actress, Angela, like just the idea to cram, it's not even about cramming all the lines down, because sometimes I think people forget that acting isn't about just regurgitating lines. It's about giving your viewer an emotional experience, right? And so for her to not only cram all that information in, but to turn around and I feel like give us a spectacular performance within 3 to 4 days, or 4 to 5 days, like I just was like, man, hats off to you. But it was fun. It was fun working with Tyler Perry. I believe that was my first time working with him. Uh, I just the more I watch Tyler Perry over the years, the one thing I appreciate about him is how he is so unapologetic about what he is trying to what he is doing with his work. And so you just appreciate artists who are just unapologetic about, here's my art, you're either gonna like it or you're not. And that's what art is. You will like it or you won't. There are people who will go and pay millions of dollars for a blank white canvas with a slash on it. And this is like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, brother, you couldn't get me to drop $2 on that. But but
Mhm.
but the thing about it is people recognize something in that art that I don't, and that is okay. So it was just fun working on Acrimony. That's another thing. The guy that played the older version of me, Kendrick Cross, I thought they did a great job with casting, because I remember looking at Ken, I'm like, yo, I feel like we resemble each other. Like, yeah, and he's a cool dude. Funny, we worked on a separate film where I again played the younger version of him. Just super cool dude. But yeah, it was a great experience. Um, Great experience working on him, working on that project. Tyler Perry moves fast, right? So to any actor who is looking to work with Tyler Perry, I would say one thing to keep in mind is he moves quick, because he knows what he wants, right? So you'll go on some sets, like For instance, my very first major big budget project was Barbershop 3, right? Um, I had this quick scene. I'm in there for like 20-ish seconds, if that. But it took me 2 days. I was on set 2 days shooting that project. And I remember sometimes what people don't know about acting is there are so many times where you're doing the same scene repetitively. You do it 8 times for one take before they're like, great, let's move on to this angle. We're gonna do it another 7 times. The same thing over and over. Whereas because, and I think Tyler Perry is branching out now, but most of his career, he was the director, the writer, he was on set for every one of his projects. So he knew exactly what he was looking for. So you're not getting 2, 3 takes. You're getting that one. You better be prepared to hit it. And if you needed something, I'm sure he would. If you needed another take, I'm sure he would give it to you. But it's really about, just come prepared to do your work. But he moves fast. So that was a different experience. From all my other work, it's just he moves fast. And so you do need to be prepared for that. But it was fun. It was fun.
We got another question from Edwin, and it says a question for the guest and the host. Uh-oh. So that's
Uh-oh.
one for me too. Which of the following bothers most in an artistic piece? Bad acting, bad writing, questionable directing, or choice and lighting?
Okay. Do you want to take it first? You want me to jump in?
I'm gonna say bad acting. That's
Okay.
just me. I can, because I have seen. Let's for example,
Mhm.
some years ago, particularly before there were a lot of projects that had some funding behind it. I've seen those passion projects where maybe they didn't have the money for, all of the elaborate lighting or to light properly. So I've seen some projects that have seen the light of day.
Right.
They may now be on streaming platforms. Maybe they had a limited release in New York, LA, and Chicago some time ago, but the acting was good. The
Mhm.
directing was good. They probably wore their own clothes.
Mhm.
A big mama probably was catering and,
Yep.
did staff services. Let's keep that real, because I've
Yep.
been on sets like that where someone's parent or auntie or somebody, they're real creative with the food,
Yep.
but there were other ways that they were able to do it by cutting corners. Lighting is sometimes one,
Mhm.
costumes is one,
Mhm.
food is one, and then locations where you just use locations that people allow you to use for free. So I can kind of overlook some bad lighting.
Yeah.
But that acting, ooh, you know, I don't drag people. I
Right.
really don't. But like for real, that bothers me
Yeah.
because I'm like, I feel like let's just say you got a role because you look like someone, or you got a role because you know some, or whatever.
Yep.
You can get an acting coach. You can take a class or two before you make it to set,
Right.
and you could just work really hard to improve.
Mhm.
BMF, Black Mafia Family. I don't know
Mhm.
the actor's name, but he's playing his dad,
Right.
and so when he got cast, he took a whole year of acting classes. So I feel like I don't want to say that there's no excuse, but especially nowadays where you can practice with your cell phone because
Right.
cell phones have the capability of capturing video very similar to a film
Yes.
camera. Just practice, practice, practice. So for me, it's bad acting. I'm
I
dropping.
hear it.
I'm dropping the mic. I'm dropping the mic.
No, no, it's funny. I'm gonna. So I will say that's my number. That's my number two. But I totally agree. I have the ability. I have the blessing to be able to have people trust me to come to me for acting coaching, and so I 100% agree with everything what you said, which is like when you do the work when you do the work, you there's so many resources out here for you to be able to do the work and create some awesome work that people see in front of the camera. My number one though, it's gonna have to be writing, and I say this bad writing because again, coming from the backside, you can have great acting, great lighting, you can have all of that, and if you have a bad editor, they can make your acting look bad.
Mm.
If me and you are going back and forth, and me and you are in a kitchen scene and we're arguing, and I say, "Why did you do that, Angela?" And you say, "Because you were supposed to cook food last night." And I say, "Well, I didn't want to eat." And if your editor doesn't edit that right, and it's like, well, why did you do that, Angela? Because I didn't enjoy that last night. Well, why did you do it? And it's just like, why are they taking beats like that? You see what I'm saying? Because nobody's going to think of the editing, right? And
Right.
so for that reason, that's the only reason that's my number two, because sometimes actors don't always have the ability to control what comes out, or what's edited. But man, I am a firm believer that I don't care how good you are, bad writing, and by bad writing I mean writing that doesn't flow. Like, it's just like, this just doesn't make sense. This world that you've created just doesn't make sense. I don't know any actor that you would put in here that would make this script make sense. I don't care if you got
Or people
millions.
don't talk like that in real life. Like, nobody talks like that's not a conversation.
Come
Who would
on,
say
man.
that?
Who
And
would
I
say
bet as
that?
an actor, Moses, you can relate. When you're working on lines and you keep having trouble with the
Mhm,
same two sentences,
mhm.
I'm not gonna, name projects or writers or anything like that. But
Yeah,
there are times when I get a script and I'm just like, the reason I can't get this is because it's written poorly. No
right.
one speaks like this in real
Mhm.
life. My brain will not let me do it.
Straight up, like, yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I'm not even, I still consider myself a fledgling in the industry. Like, I'm still learning. I feel like I'm still growing. But with I at least feel confident to where if I book a project and there has to be some kind of gain for me. Is my signal breaking up? I just want to make sure. Is it breaking up? Okay. All right. There has to be some kind of gain for me. So maybe I need something financial. So maybe it isn't the best project, but it's going to support me financially. Whatever. There has to be some kind of gain. But if there's no gain creatively, I am quick to turn down a project. Like, it's not always about the money. It's not always about, like, if I read a script, I'm just like, this is so it's so basic. This is gonna do nothing for me. I don't agree with the script. Then what am I doing it for? There's somebody else out here who probably will. Like, it's so much work. Why am I gonna take a script that I just don't agree with? So I cannot stand bad writing. I hate bad writing. That's my pet peeve. I hate it.
You also mentioned editing as well, just how you can't control that, and I will say there was a project that I ad-libbed a little bit. Director
Mhm.
didn't have a problem with it. It was cool. Uh, but when I saw it, the editors, I was like, you can't, you know what? You can't be mad because you had no business ad-libbing this. I had ad-libbed, a line about, my stomach, being in the bathroom a long time. That
Uh-huh.
was I ad-libbed that. So when I actually saw the scene, the editors had edited the bubble guts sound effects, and I was like,
Oh,
I was like, oh, but I was like, you know what? You did that. That
yeah.
line wasn't in there. They took what you gave them and they worked with it. I was like, wow. So it was a surprise for me, and I couldn't even do anything but laugh.
Mm.
Leslie Youngblood, who is a middle grade author, says dialogue is key. Do actors have any say so when it comes to poor dialogue?
Hmm.
What I was just saying, I think it depends on who you're working with,
Right.
whether it's film or whether it's television. I know I was just on set maybe 3 weeks ago. I can't remember what I said. Like, maybe I missed two words, and literally the director came to me and said, "Oh no, this is a set where you have to say it exact." Like,
Hmm.
she told me that up front, and I was like, "Okay." And I didn't mean to ad lib, but just,
Yeah.
it was the first rehearsal and it just came out the way it came out. So I quickly consulted my sides and got it right.
Yeah. Well, one thing, and so sometimes this is something I try and help people with the amount of experience I've learned. This is one thing I've picked up. Comedies in general tend to lend themselves towards more ad libbing than dramas do. And from my experience, comedies directors, they have their script, and if there are those jokes where they're like, no, you got to punch this joke, but they're just more open to, if there's something that you want to give and it works, then they'll let you flow with it. Like, that's one thing I've learned over the years, is like, okay, when I have a comedic when I have an audition, or if I'm on set for comedy, I will find my way ad-libbing more and have the director ask me to pull back before, like, oh, let me just give a little. And I think my last experience I learned this is when I did the show Atlanta. I remember I'm in there, and most of the scene, it's just a really dark scene. You can't really see me too much. But the one part where I do kind of come into light and you do see me, when the girls are walking off, like everything from that was ad lib on. And I'm just like, if I didn't have this revelation to start, it's not about just adding words just to get more screen time. But if you really develop a character, you can ad lib and it makes sense. And the whole thing, like half my thing is ad lib. And so I just realized they're more keen to allowing it on comedies. I think with dramas, the problem with ad libbing for a drama, sometimes if I'm supposed to be a very well put together attorney, and then at the end I ad lib something like, if you say okay, and I ad lib like, oh, straight up, we can make that happen. Well, now I'm totally changing that. Straight up, just that little straight up can totally change. Like, oh, wait a minute, I thought this was a well put together guy. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's why on dramas there's so the character development is so key at times, that it's just like, now we don't have room for ad lib. Aaron Sorkin, and I've never worked with Aaron Sorkin, but I know actors who have, and who have particular audition in front of him, and he is down to the words of a and the. Like, I remember I had a friend tell me he was doing an audition, and say if the sentence was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to I'm gonna go get a door. I'm gonna go get the door, and Aaron Sorkin will come up and say, hey, it's I'm gonna go get a door. Something as simple as a and the. Right now, for my grammatical people out there, they could probably see the difference in saying I'm going to go get a door compared to I'm going to get the door. But even still, though, it's just some people. Shonda Rhimes was another one I think is like very keen on, like, hey, I need my dialogue hit the way it's hit. And often the networks on TV. I just think when it comes to drama, from my experience, they're more big on, like, hey, I need you to hit that. And so, but with that being said, I do think, like when you were mentioning earlier, and you're like, there's these couple lines that I can't hit. If I'm on set and I can't hit these couple lines in a way that I feel like it sounds realistic, then I can go have a talk with the director or the writer and say, hey, is there a way we can reword this? And I do think they're open to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do think they're open to um, uh, uh, reworking the scene that makes it work for you as the actor, because then they can at least try and work it into a way that makes sense for the character. So yeah, it really depends on who you're working with, for sure, and the network you're on. Yeah.
All of the above, because
Yeah.
yeah, I've it's been an interesting journey thus far. So I've seen it all. Well, Moses, wow, thank you so much for taking the time. Time just flew, but
It does fly
we've been
by.
talking for a minute. If you'd like to stay connected with Moses, his Instagram is scrolling at the bottom of the screen, as well as his website. He did mention actor coaching, as
Sure.
well as getting those actor reels together. So, um, and I'm gonna put this out here now. I know you primarily do acting reels, but I would imagine that you would also edit it, maybe a highlight footage
Mhm.
for someone who may not be an actor, but just needs, a nice, great highlight reel put together. So
Right.
is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some people who, I've been blessed to work with some really nice people. Not everyone allows me to put their footage or their names out on my website, but I've worked with some really, when it comes to reels, I've worked with some really popular names, and not all of them are actors. Some of them are comedians. Some of them are hosts. So the reel, it's I do demo reels. The majority of my clients happen to be actors, but no, if you need a reel for something else, if you're in a different industry, just contact me, and if I can do it, I'll let you know, and if I can't, I'll let you know as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Moses, definitely great to see you online tonight. Definitely look forward to hanging out, either being back on a set together again
Yeah.
or around the table again. Just FYI, that last project we worked on together, I don't think it's been done yet, so I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, for
it
sure.
reminded me that uh, that that it's still maybe a possibility. I'm laughing because of what Edwin. I love Edwin. Edwin says you two look good on screen together. I can see a potential TV couple.
Man, come on,
I'm
man.
a little bit older. I mean, I'm willing to play a cougar though. I can play a cougar. I don't have a problem with that at all. So
I was gonna say that's the show right there. That's the show, right? Like, nah, man. Yeah, it would be fun to get back on this or get on the screen with you again. So for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
awesome. Well, Moses, enjoy the rest of your evening. And again, connect with Moses on Instagram and online.
I
Have a
appreciate
great
it.
evening, Moses.
You too. Thank you.
Well, that is it for tonight's Angela Ray show. As always, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you all to go out and be the change. Have a